In the cold, forgotten islands of the north, where the sea breathes like a living beast, a nightmare was born centuries ago. A creature known as the Imagine this. A being with no skin. It's raw. Red muscles exposed to the biting wind, its blood flowing like molten fire, and its eyes burning like dying stars. The ancient islanders believed it wasn't a product of nature, but was forged from pure, undiluted hatred, the unholy child of the sea itself. For generations, no one dared to speak its name after the sun had dipped below the horizon, for fear of summoning it from the depths. But everything changed on one fateful night. The fisherman's village, nestled against the unforgiving coastline, heard a sound rising from the sea. A slow, wet, rhythmic breathing. At first, they tried to ignore it, dismissing it as the sigh of the waves or the cry of a distant seal. But then, an unnatural mist, thick and clammy, rolled in from the water, blanketing the village in a ghostly shroud. And from the stables, the horses screamed. A sound of pure, primal terror. Old, forgotten manuscripts, their pages brittle with age, warned that the Mythology awakens when the delicate balance of nature is broken. And on that night, something had disturbed the ocean's ancient slumber. A young fisherman named Einar was the first to truly sense it. He was a man of the sea, his life tied to its rhythms and moods. He saw the waves behaving unnaturally, pulling back and then surging with a strange, malevolent force, as if something massive was rising from below. He rushed to warn the villagers, his voice filled with an urgency they couldn't comprehend. But before anyone could heed his warning, the first signs appeared, undeniable and terrifying. Freshly caught seaweed, piled on the docks, began to rot instantly, turning into a black, foul-smelling sludge. The air, once crisp with salt, now tasted of sulfur and decay. And the water in the harbor, the lifeblood of their village, turned as black as ink. The Mythology had awakened, and its hunger, a hunger that had been dormant for centuries, had returned. The story of the Mythology is not just a tale to scare children. It's a legend rooted deep in Orcadia mythology, from the Orkney Islands of Scotland. This creature is one of the most horrifying beings in all of Scottish folklore, a composite monster that is part horse, part man, fused together in a grotesque union. The human torso, with its impossibly long arms, seems to grow out of the horse's back, as if it were a monstrous rider permanently attached to its steed. Its head, massive and lolling, has a single, fiery eye, and a cavernous mouth that gapes open, releasing a toxic, pestilential breath. Known as the Mordechine, this breath could wilt crops, sicken livestock, and bring plague to entire communities. The name itself, Mythology, is thought to derive from an old Orcadian term, Nagelvi, which translates to devil of the sea. Unlike many other mythical creatures, the Mythology had a very specific weakness: fresh, running water. It could not cross a stream or a river. This single vulnerability was the only hope for anyone unfortunate enough to encounter it. The islanders would build their homes with a stream running between them and the sea, a fragile barrier against the malevolence that lurked in the brine. The tales say that the Mythology's rage was directed at humanity for their disrespect of nature, particularly the burning of seaweed to create kelp. This act, they believed, produced a foul smoke that enraged the sea fiend, driving it onto the land to seek its terrible revenge. It was a creature of winter, its presence confined to the colder months. When summer arrived, another ancient spirit, the the sea, would come to power and keep the Mythology imprisoned in the ocean depths. This gave the islanders a brief, precious respite, a season of peace before the fear returned with the autumn gales. Let's return to our fisherman, Einar. As the village descended into panic, Einar remembered the old stories, the tales his grandmother had whispered to him by the fireside. He knew this wasn't just a storm or a strange tide. This was the monster from the legends, while others froze in fear or barred their doors. Einar's mind raced. He thought of the village's main freshwater spring, which fed a small burn, a stream that snaked its way down from the hills and emptied into a cove west of the village. It was their only hope. He grabbed a lantern and ran, shouting for others to follow, his words slicing through the thick, sulfurous air. To the burn. We have to cross the burn. The creature was now visible, a nightmarish silhouette against the churning, black waves. It moved with a horrifying, lurching gait, its horse-like legs splashing through the shallows, its long arms dragging along the sand. The sound of its breathing was deafening, a wet, rasping noise that seemed to suck the very air from your lungs. The single eye scanned the village, glowing with an ancient, cold intelligence. It wasn't a mindless beast, it was a hunter. The villagers, finally spurred into action by the sight of the abomination, began to flee. Men, women, and children scrambled through the muddy lanes, their screams swallowed by the roar of the sea and the monster's foul breath. They ran towards the stream, their only sanctuary. Einar led the way, his lantern swinging wildly, casting dancing shadows that seemed to mock their desperation. The Nuka-Levi was faster than they could have imagined. It closed the distance with terrifying speed. Einar could feel its foul breath on his neck, a wave of sickness and rot that threatened to overwhelm him. He risked a glance back and saw it, closer than he dared to believe. Its long arms reached out, its fingers like talons, the corpse of a drowned man. A villager stumbled and fell, and before anyone could help, one of those arms snatched him up. His scream was cut short. Einar didn't look back again. He focused on the sound of running water ahead, the gurgle of the stream that was now a symphony of hope. He could see it, glinting in the moonlight that pierced the unnatural fog. Just a few more feet, he half stumbled across the shallow stream, the cold, fresh water splashing up to his knees. It felt like a baptism, a cleansing of the fear and filth that clung to him. He turned to help the others, pulling them across the water's edge. One by one, the villagers poured across the burn, collapsing on the other side, gasping for air. The Nuka-Levi stopped dead at the water's edge. It let out a shriek of pure, unadulterated fury, a sound that seemed to tear the very fabric of the night. It thrashed and raged, its single eye glaring at them with a hatred that was almost a physical force, but it could not cross. The simple stream, no wider than a man could jump, held it at bay, an invisible wall of power it could not breach. The creature patrolled the bank of the stream all night, its monstrous form a constant, terrifying presence. The villagers huddled together on the other side, praying for the dawn. Einar, though exhausted, stood watch. He knew this wasn't a permanent solution. They had survived the night, but the Nuka-Levi was still there. Its presence had poisoned the land and sea. The crops would fail. The fish would be gone. The plague it carried on its breath would linger. The balance had been broken, and simply hiding behind a stream wouldn't fix it. Something had to be done to restore it, to appease the ancient entity, or drive it back into the depths for good. As the fierce weak rays of dawn touched the horizon, the Nuka-Levi let out one last, guttural roar of frustration and retreated back into the black, churning sea. The mist began to dissipate, and the sulfurous stench slowly faded, replaced by the familiar smell of salt and morning. A fragile, temporary peace settled over the village, but everyone knew this was just a reprieve. The Nuka-Levi would return with the next sunset. The question that hung in the air, heavier than the morning fog, was what had they done to awaken it? What sin had they committed against the sea to earn its ultimate wrath? Einar looked out at the ocean, no longer a source of livelihood, but a prison of fear. He knew he had to find the answer. The survival of his people, his home, depended on it. He would have to delve into the oldest legends, the most forbidden lore, to understand the source of the imbalance and find a way to make things right. The fight for their lives had only just begun. The legend of the Nuka-Levi serves as a powerful reminder of the respect our ancestors had for the natural world. It was a personification of the dangers of the sea, of disease, of drought. These weren't just scary stories, they were cautionary tales, embodying a deep ecological wisdom. They taught that nature, when disrespected, could lash out with terrifying force. Perhaps in our modern world, we could learn something from these ancient myths. They remind us that our relationship with the planet is a delicate balance, and that the consequences of breaking it can be more horrifying than any monster from folklore. What do you think? Are these just old stories, or do they hold a truth we've forgotten? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this dive into the darkest corners of mythology, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more tales from the shadows.